Hello, everyone. Thank you for choosing Stimulus Check Updates. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and watch to the end of the video to stay up to date on your stimulus checks. Today we are talking about the $1,200 stimulus check update and $600 unemployment benefits that may come from a new bill. Despite ongoing discussions with Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin over another coronavirus relief package, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Thursday revealed several areas that are still unresolved in talks with the Trump administration, indicating the two sides remain far apart on another measure designed to provide assistance to American families struggling during the pandemic. We will want to see a bill that contains a second stimulus check, unemployment benefits, and many other aid that the American people need right now. In a letter to Mnuchin, who has been leading negotiations for the White House, Pelosi placed the blame for the ongoing stalemate squarely on the Trump administration, arguing Democrats still have not received word on compromise language for a strategic testing, tracing and treatment plan, vaccines, and Obamacare coverage for Americans who are out of work. Your responses are critical for our negotiations to continue, Pelosi told Mnuchin in the letter dated Thursday. The president's words that, after the election, we will get the best stimulus package you have ever seen only have meaning if he can get Mitch McConnell to take his hand off the pause button and get Senate Republican chairmen moving toward agreement with their House counterparts. Pelosi also indicated there is disagreement between Democrats and the White House on 6 issues: funding for state and local governments, funding for schools, child care, the earned income and child tax credits, unemployment benefits, OSHA and liability. As the coronavirus surges and the stock market plummets, we are still awaiting the Trump administration's promised responses on multiple items of critical importance, she said. In her weekly press conference on Thursday, Pelosi noted that Mnuchin had said he was willing to compromise on funding for testing earlier this month but had then failed to do so. In a letter replying to Pelosi later on Thursday, Mnuchin accused the speaker of pulling a political stunt by releasing her letter to the press at the same time as she sent it to him. Mnuchin also said that the White House had provided reasonable compromises on state and local funding, schools, extended unemployment benefits, liability protections, and OSHA. Your all or none approach is hurting hardworking Americans who need help now, Mnuchin said. He is right. How things are going, we might not see a second stimulus check and $600 in unemployment benefits until after the election is over. Pelosi and Mnuchin have been engaged in negotiations over another coronavirus relief measure for weeks, but hopes of a deal passing before the November 3rd election have slipped away. Members of the House have been in their home districts for much of October, while the Senate adjourned Monday after voting to confirm Justice Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. The Senate will next convene November 9th, while the House will not hold votes until the week of November 16th. Last week, the Senate voted on a tailored $500 billion coronavirus relief measure put forth by Republicans, but the bill was blocked by Senate Democrats, who said it did not do enough. The GOP, meanwhile, accused Democrats of refusing to compromise. We have been working on coronavirus relief. Unfortunately, the Speaker has not been able to agree to anything remotely reasonable, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said in an interview on Monday. Unless Pelosi and the Republicans are able to come to an agreement, the chances of seeing a bill that has the second stimulus check and unemployment benefits in it go down. That is before the election is over. After the election, the chances of getting a second stimulus check and around $600 in unemployment benefits are extremely high. McConnell had previously said that if Pelosi and Mnuchin were able to reach an agreement, he would bring their proposal to the Senate floor for consideration. However, CBS News confirmed last week that McConnell told Senate Republicans that he had warned the White House against reaching an agreement on a coronavirus relief bill ahead of the election. Pelosi and Mnuchin last spoke Monday for 52 minutes, the Speaker's spokesman Drew Hamill said, adding, "Progress depends on Leader McConnell agreeing to bipartisan, comprehensive legislation to crush the virus, honor our heroes, our essential workers, and put money in the pockets of the American people." Pelosi said on Thursday that she believed Congress needed to prepare for the next phase of legislation if a new administration takes office in January. "I feel very confident that Joe Biden will be elected president on Tuesday," Pelosi said. "We have to be ready for how we are going to go down a different path. Over 225,000 Americans have died from the virus, and millions have lost their jobs due to the economic fallout caused by the pandemic." Discussions between House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin took on a decidedly less cordial tone Thursday as the Trump administration's top negotiator accused his counterpart of miscasting the state of stalled coronavirus stimulus talks days before Election Day. The episode started when, in a letter to Mnuchin, the California Democrat said she is still awaiting replies from the White House on multiple items of critical importance. As the COVID-19 outbreak rages across the U.S., she cited a bevy of differences the sides did not resolve during a pre-election scramble to strike a deal: a national testing strategy, state and local government relief, enhanced unemployment insurance, child care, tax credits, liability protections for businesses, and workplace safety standards. Congress left Washington and won't be back until after Tuesday's election despite record numbers of new infections and the threat of fresh winter economic restrictions hitting the economy and Americans' wallets. While lawmakers will not send relief before the election, Pelosi signaled to Mnuchin that she wants to continue discussions after the country votes. "Your responses are critical for our negotiations to continue," the speaker wrote. The president's words that, after the election, we will get the best stimulus package you have ever seen, only have meaning if he can get Mitch McConnell to take his hand off the pause button and get the Senate Republican chairman moving toward agreement with their House counterparts. Pelosi says she is optimistic deal can be reached before election despite continuing stalemate. Mnuchin responded to Pelosi on Thursday afternoon, saying the speaker sent the letter to my office at midnight and simultaneously released it to the press. I can unfortunately only conclude that it was a political stunt. The Treasury Secretary wrote that he has dedicated endless hours to trying to reach a compromise, but argued the Democrat has not made the same effort to find common ground. He said that, contrary to Pelosi's comments, the White House did accept Democrats' proposal on COVID-19 testing and offered reasonable compromise positions on the range of other topics Pelosi highlighted. He criticized the Democratic leader's opposition to passing standalone bills related to airline payroll relief, small business loans, or direct payments to individuals. Your all or none approach is hurting hardworking Americans who need help now, he concluded. In response to Mnuchin's letter, Pelosi spokesman Drew Hamill insisted the White House has not lived up to Secretary Mnuchin's promise to accept Democrats' language to crush the virus. He said Democrats were still waiting for meaningful responses on the topics Pelosi cited. These responses are needed so that talks can advance to deliver coronavirus relief as soon as possible. It is disappointing that the White House wasted time on this letter instead of meaningful responses to meet the needs of the American people, Hamill said. During months of failed efforts to reach another stimulus agreement, Democrats and Republicans have cited a fundamental dispute over what the federal government needs to do to lift an economy and health care system battered by the virus. House Democrats last passed a $2.2 trillion package this month. Senate Republicans tried to approve a $500 billion bill, but Democrats blocked it. The Trump administration most recently offered a roughly $1.9 trillion package to Democrats. As the process became more bitter Thursday ahead of the election, it was unclear how the sides would come to a compromise that could pass both the Democratic-held House and GOP-controlled Senate in the coming weeks. The third-quarter GDP report released Thursday may only widen the gulf between the parties. The Trump presidential campaign and congressional Republicans swiftly touted the record 33.1% growth rate that came as states loosened public health restrictions. The spike followed a worst-ever plunge of 31.4% in the second quarter. Losses: the economy has not fully recovered. Initial jobless claims also fell last week to their lowest level since March, but the total of 751,000 still exceeds any week before the pandemic hit. Republicans promoted the GDP data as evidence their economic plans have worked. Republican policies have given us a strong foundation. Together, we're moving forward, Senator John Barrasso, a Wyoming Republican and the third-ranking member of his party, said in a statement Thursday. Senate Republicans have three priorities: getting people back to work, getting kids back to school safely, and putting the disease behind us. That's our focus as we fight the virus. These two issues are holding up the next round of stimulus checks. Meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer cited the GDP report both as evidence that earlier federal stimulus worked and that Congress needs to send more relief. These numbers mask the reality that 23 million Americans remain on unemployment and tens of thousands of small businesses have already gone under, the New York Democrats said in a statement. Our nation still has a long way to go before we overcome this public health crisis and our economy fully recovers. Much more needs to be done. Second stimulus check, passing a new coronavirus relief bill after the election. Pelosi told reporters Thursday that the CARES Act relief bill passed earlier this year deserves credit for injecting resources into the economy. But she added that, if we don't pass a recovery bill, a COVID-19 bill, we will face dire circumstances, as well. She said she still hopes to strike a stimulus agreement before the winners of next week's presidential and congressional elections take office in January. McConnell on Monday responded to criticism that Republicans rushed to confirm Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett before the election without passing coronavirus aid. He said that, "We have been working on coronavirus relief. Unfortunately, the Speaker has not been able to agree to anything remotely reasonable. We can do two things at once and we were trying to do two things at once," he said. While Congress fails to send more aid to Americans, polls show voters broadly want additional relief as millions still struggle to make ends meet during the downturn. A University of Texas Dallas poll taken over 2 weeks this month found 42% of voters nationally consider coronavirus stimulus their top legislative priority. The election outcome could shape whether negotiators can, or even want to, reach a stimulus deal in the months before the next president and Congress take office in January. Thank you for watching Stimulus Check Updates today. Make sure to subscribe and like the video, and I will be seeing you next time.